It's December in Wyoming, which means it's bitterly cold out. It also means it's the perfect condition for cold weather wildlife. In this Reframed, we get wild in Wyoming as we take to the great outdoors and discuss the use of high-resolution cinematography and photography as we search for some of our favorite animals that roam the open plains, capturing it all in beautiful 8K and 4K 120p resolution. Buckle up. Resolution seems to be everything these days, whether you're using a prosumer camera like the Sony a7 IV or professional grade camera like the Sony Alpha 1. You'll be privy to creating gorgeous content anywhere in the 6K to 8K resolution range, which will end up giving you huge advantages when you want to edit or work with your footage in post-production. In this episode, we'll be using nature to demonstrate the power of resolution and go on a mini adventure in the process. Before we dive into gear, let's quickly discuss what 8K resolution means for you, the user. To start, 8K resolution is the next evolution for TV and film. It allows us to do more with the scene because there's more pixels to work with and allows us to physically see more detail up close. 8K resolution is 4 times the resolution of 4K and 8 times the resolution of 1080p, which gives the user a ton of latitude to work with the imagery and video in post-production. The codecs used to film 8K footage on the Sony Alpha 1 allow us to film in 420 or 422 color, which in very simplistic terms, and I do mean very simplistic, 422 gives us a higher data rate and thus more information than 420 color space, but it also gives us a larger file size. 422 color gives the user more information to pull from when color grading and editing, which means it's a higher quality than 420. Now, let's talk gear. When it comes to gear, there are only a few options for filming ultra high definition 8K footage. In this case, we'll be using the Sony Alpha 1, which just got an update recently that allows for true 10-bit 422 color rendition in 8K, which is absolutely fantastic. To turn your camera into a high resolution monster, you'll first want to ensure you're filming in the correct mode. To do that, turn your camera to movie mode. Hit the menu screen. Scroll down to the red camera icon on the left, and then choose the file format on the right hand side of the screen. Once that's open, select the XAVC HS 8K setting. This will change the resolution of your camera to film in 8K. You also have the option to choose whether you want a 24p or 30p timeline depending on how you want to deliver your footage. If you're looking to create a more cinematic look, I would highly recommend choosing the 24p mode. I also recommend using the highest data rate, which is 520 megs, and this is going to allow you to have the highest possible video quality when filming. This also means the file sizes will be larger, but you'll have more information that you can pull from when you get into the post-production phase. When it comes to choosing 4K 120, the best method for this is choosing the S&Q mode from the top of the dial. This will allow you to easily change between 8K and 4K 120 without having to go into the menu system, which can be pretty cumbersome if you're in the middle of an uncontrolled action event. To set up your S&Q mode, go into the menu system, choose the red camera icon again, go to Image Quality, and on the right-hand side, choose S&Q settings. From there, you can select the recording frame rate as well as the high-speed frame rate. For us, we'll be using a 24p recording with a frame rate of 120 frames per second. This is going to allow us to slow down the footage 5 times that of a regular 24p timeline. For our lenses, I'll be using the new 7200 Mark II G Master as well as the 200-600 because these lenses will give us the most range when trying to capture beautiful 8K wildlife footage.
One of the most important things that you can bring with you on any trip, if you're shooting high resolution 8K or even 4K 120, you want to make sure you have a solid tripod. You also want to make sure that you have a fluid head. And the fluid head is really important because it gives it that nice fluid motion. If you were to use, to say, a ball head or just a tripod that didn't really have any fluidity to it, you're not going to get those nice fluid motions, and it's all going to be noticeable when you're actually shooting your content. So when you go back and play that 8K file or that 4K 120p file, it's going to have some shake and jitter to it, and sometimes you can remove it in post, but it's best to remove it practically when you're out in the field. So we like to use the Satchler Active 6 right now. It's a really nice tripod. It gives you full range of motion. And when you're using a lens like the 200-600, having that fluid head really makes a big difference, especially when you're shooting something like a moose or bison or any kind of wildlife, because any kind of motion that you do, it's going to be replicated back on the sensor. So having this fluid head really just helps kind of negate any kind of issues you may have when it comes to post-production.
With our camera gear all sorted out, we can head off and search for some wildlife. One of the things I love about the Grand Teton area is that there's always something new and exciting to see when it comes to animals. The landscape is littered with different varieties of wildlife, and it seems like no matter where you look, you're bound to find something. I also recommend, if you plan going off the beaten path, to get a proper vehicle, one that's going to be able to take the hits of a poorly maintained trail and or snow and mud. One of the first animals we came across is the majestic bison, and what an experience that was.
We've got this entire herd of bison right in front of us. What I will say is, since I am using such a long focal length at 1200 millimeters, what you want to do is make sure you don't have any kind of resistance on the edge of the lens. So if you have a lens hood, take it off, because what it's going to do is create vibration, and that vibration is going to kill your shot. So I've taken the lens hood off, and I'm just getting incredible imagery.
Bison are very beautiful creatures, but they're also dangerous, so maintain a safe distance when filming. It's best to stay in your car and use a long lens when you want to get close-ups. Because 8K resolution is so big, I tend to ensure that my shots are a bit wider and have multiple subjects in the frame, so if I want to recrop and recompose, I can do that later. When you find your subject, try not to touch the lens or the camera while recording unless you're actively tracking them with the tripod. The less movement or vibration that you add to the scene, the better. When you are tracking the subject with a fluid head, make sure that you've gotten yourself enough drag on both the pan and the tilt so you can create smooth movement without having jerky stops and starts. One thing you might find while you're out filming wildlife is that you might need more height when it comes to capturing your subject, so sometimes you have to get creative.
So the reason I climb on top of my Jeep right now is because the brush out in the field is just a little bit too high for the elevation that we need to actually see the moose. So I decided to use the Jeep, put the tripod on top of the Jeep, and now I've got a perfect perspective of both moose as they're out in the field. So, you know, you gotta adapt and overcome sometimes.
When it comes to filming techniques, I like to make sure that my camera and lenses are always ready to go. I'm using the Kessler quick release plate on our tripod, which allows me to go from shooting steady tripod shots to handheld in just a second or two of time. Adding this type of tool really helps aid you when you're in a quick-paced situation. When you are tracking your subjects, it's smart to allow for a bit of buffer room in the direction the subject is moving. That way they're always in frame. You'll have to anticipate their movement, but once you get an understanding of where they're going, it's quite easy to track them and get a beautiful shot. I also recommend turning on Animal IAF, especially in video, because it's really going to allow you to track that focus and worry more about the composition and not if the image is sharp or not. One thing to always be aware of when you're out in nature is that nature is completely unpredictable. You have no control over what that animal is going to do. Because of this, it's smart to either stay in your car when the animals are super close or keep at least a 15 to 20 foot distance between you and the animal. If it decides to charge you or head in your direction, you want to make sure you're able to safely make it out. If you really want to make your footage look even more spectacular, you can change the movie mode to S&Q and capture truly stunning and unique shots of wildlife at 120 frames per second. You also want to make sure, if you're capturing high frame rate footage, to film when there's a lot of fast, high impact action happening. You can also leverage atmospherics like snow, leaves, or dust in the light to help showcase the slow motion footage more deliberately. The more unbelievable it looks, the more in awe your viewers will be. Once you've captured all that beautiful 8K and 4K 120p footage, it's time to head to the editing bay. I think one thing people often overlook is just how much additional horsepower you're going to need when it comes to setting up a proper 8K workflow. Your basic computer, whether you're on Apple or Windows, likely won't be able to handle 8K or even 4K 120p footage that well. Here's a list of minimum specs that I would recommend when you actively want to view and play back 8K footage. You want to make sure that your system has at least 8 cores above 4.2 GHz, 32 GB of RAM, and at least 12 GB of video memory. This is going to allow you to fluidly work with 8K plus resolutions in programs like DaVinci Resolve or Adobe Premiere Pro. You'll also want to ensure that your footage is stored on a fast drive, such as a Gen 3 or Gen 4 NVMe SSD. This will provide you with the best playback capabilities. It's also important to understand how much data your camera is going to generate when you're out filming. If you plan on shooting a lot of high-resolution content, then I would highly recommend investing in a NAS or network-attached storage that has at least 64 terabytes of space, which can be purchased for around $1,500 to $3,000. If you anticipate shooting a lot of high-resolution content, think about investing in a proper server that has at least 120 terabytes and can be upgraded later in life. Now, onto the fun part. One of the biggest advantages of filming high-resolution content is the ability to recrop, recompose, and reimagine your scene. Since most productions still only deliver in 1080p or 4K, you're going to have either 4x or even 8x the resolution to work with when you load up your 8K footage. This is going to allow you, in certain circumstances, to use the same shot multiple times and create multiple scenes just from one single clip. You can create mini sequences of shots that all derive from the same composition. This can be a huge benefit if you're filming a scene for an interview or you want to create both a wide and tight shot of your subject. This is why it's always important to shoot a bit wider when you're filming in 8K. There are a multitude of compositional possibilities when it comes to filming high-resolution content, so the next time you're out, give it a try and see what you can come up with. That'll wrap it up for this reframe. Thanks for joining me.